everybody. Welcome in. It's time. Yes, it's time. Step up to the center and come on in.
You know, we're like a band. We're just barely getting along. We're better when we are better when we're all together, but we're barely getting along.
That's a good line.
We're just staying together for the album.
We're just staying together so we can make less of zero. That's what our goal is.
The sum is greater than the.
Just let's keep doing this because we're making nothing at all. So let's just keep doing it. All right, good. Yeah, that sounds like a deal.
Relationships are strained, is all I'm saying. You go on tour together, and
I get it. You know, I knew Hoppy when he came in. He back from the legislative session. He just seemed a bit off. He just wasn't himself anymore. Three guys before the game. We're ready to go. The title of the program is "Welcome Home, Darren DeVries." We'll explain that in just a little bit. This program will focus on Darren DeVries' welcoming press conference. And for the last time, although it won't be for the last time.
Yeah, it will not be the last time.
Are you kidding? This is forever.
The officiating in the West Virginia-Iowa NCAA tournament
will always be referenced. When Brad calls me up when I'm sitting at the old folks' home.
Now, Hoppy, do you remember in 2024 when West Virginia got flat out hosed by that bad official?
Yeah.
Well, it was 90 calls to 1.
People should go to jail for that. Three guys before the game.
It's all done electronically now.
Three guys before the game brought to us by Comax Business Systems, keeping West Virginia's business data safe, secure, and efficient for 25 years. By GoMart. Go for good times, go for GoMart, and go get the GoMart Rewards Card, which instantly allows you to save money on your food and your fuel. Three guys also brought to us by Lou Wendell Marine Sales in St. Albans. They are the sellers of family fun. Visit LouWendellMarineSales.com, premier pontoon boat dealer in our state. And they sell Avalon pontoon boats. You name it, they've got it. Selection the best that it will be the entire year right now. Three guys also brought to us by the Conley CPA Group, providing value beyond the numbers. All right, away we go. Since the last time we got together here on Three Guys, the women's basketball team played that very same night, and that was obviously a game that will, I'm fair to say, you won't ever forget it. It wasn't the result that West Virginia wanted, and yet perhaps it accomplished every single thing you could ever accomplish in a game that you don't win. And we'll pull that apart and explain that a little bit more in detail. We'll also discuss the arrival of Darren DeVries into the Mountaineer basketball camp, how that all went, and then maybe some football. Who knows? Plus textual healing.
I have a football thing, so just letting you know. I mean, we didn't get to that in our meeting prior to.
Correct.
So I'm letting you know now.
The only discussion we had prior to starting, just seconds before we started to roll tape, was that Hoppy told me about an event that he's got to go to this afternoon that I wasn't invited to. That was the only event. So we move on from that. We'll just grow and learn. You know who your friends are. And
I thought it was who's more prickly,
well,
Brad or I.
It was 2-1, and me and you are both in agreement that he is much more prickly.
Absolutely.
You're the teapot that simmers, and then you go, whoop, and it just comes off.
It's untrue.
You already see, you just reacted to it. He's
because
prickly.
I voiced my displeasure. He sits over there for 6 months and doesn't say anything, and then when it unloads, then the top of the building comes off.
Exactly. I can hear him.
I'm just more consistent.
I hear him upstairs. So,
say something I don't like, I'm going to tell you.
The officiating in the game between West Virginia and Iowa in the NCAA tournament is always going to be the long-lasting storyline to that game, which is unfortunate because perhaps what will get lost is the absolute fact that West Virginia did some things to Iowa that had not been done all season. For example, 6 points in a quarter, 1 field goal in the other quarter, so 6 in the second quarter, 1 field goal in the fourth quarter, season high turnovers, and they did everything they needed to do. Now, they could have shot the ball better, no question about that, but unfortunately, the officiating reached to the level that Kercheval and I've known him for 40 years, as man and boy, for 40 years. My boy went on an absolute pilgrimage. I thought at one point he was just going to light his torch and head down to the Big 12 offices down there in Irvine, Texas. He was fired up. Led to a commentary, and the majority of his talk program, his gossip show that he does in the mornings here on this for this company, Gagfly, he spent probably 70%, I think it's fair to say, one day, the day after the game. Outraged, I tell you.
Well,
go ahead.
Okay, well, a couple things. You're close. Is that
I'm close.
There's a lot to unpack about that game, and I'd like to say there are a lot of positives for West Virginia. You were part of the national discussion. A lot of people watched it. You improved your brand dramatically. Almost 5 million people watched the game. You can't buy that kind of branding, so that was really good for West Virginia. But on the officiating, my point was not – I want to be clear that the officiating did not – I would not say the officiating cost West Virginia the game. West Virginia did not shoot well from 2, did not shoot well from 3, did not get to the basket. There was a lot of things. My point was that the officiating had a significant impact on the outcome, that it wasn't the story, but it was a subset story, okay? It was a story, not the story, because the story is Iowa in the game, but it was a story about the game, and it had a significant impact on the outcome of the game, and Brad will probably get into the numbers, but the numbers back that up. I don't think that's even debatable, that it had a significant impact on the outcome of the game. And I don't know what that was about, whether it was the moment was too big, or I don't buy into conspiracy theories that ESPN and the NCAA got together and said, we're going to have Caitlin Clark all the way through. I don't buy into that. I just think the numbers reflect that it was unbalanced to the point where it was obvious, not just to West Virginia fans, and we always complain about the officiating, but to a national audience saw it as well. So, and the coach is not going to comment on it because he can't buy Big 12 rules. But when I had Coach Kellogg on my program this week, and I asked him, I said, you don't have to comment. I'm just going to say some things, and you stop me if I'm wrong. And I said a couple of things like it had a significant outcome, it had a significant impact, et cetera, et cetera. So he didn't stop me. I mean, he knows too. He couldn't comment on that. So it was a story, and it did have an impact, clearly, on the outcome.
I agree with 100% of how you presented that.
And I think it needed to be noted, not in the form of whining, like, I can't believe the officials screwed us, but just that it was part of the story.
Correct.
I would echo all of that. I would add to that, I might disagree with you. It might have been the story.
Really?
Coming out of there. I mean, this is, and maybe it's because it's fresh and prisoner of the moment. I don't remember this being a national story on national television platforms. Dame Lillard, multi-time NBA All-Star, chimed in on it. I don't recall that very often. I thought it was clearly obvious that the officiating, and I'm with you, they weren't trying to get Caitlin Clark to the next round. ESPN did not send an edict down to get Caitlin Clark. It just, the officials had a bad game. West Virginia didn't shoot it well from 3, right? And as my point always is with the officiating, we talk about that, and we say specific players didn't shoot well from 3. If they do, you probably win. So my point is, when those officials have an off night, and they did, there were multiple calls that you can look at and say, you guys just missed it. That was not the right call. And I've said a million times, so all my disclaimers, refereeing is really hard.
Yeah.
Refereeing basketball is hard. There's a lot going on there. I get that. But if we're going to hold players accountable and coaches accountable and people lose their jobs because of wins and losses, you can't have officiating that looks like that. You simply can't. And yeah, I'll give you some numbers, Hoppy, because I think this goes beyond, hey, you guys are homers and you're just screaming about this. There's some numbers, and what the numbers tell you is this, guys. There were statistical outliers both ways, both in how many foul calls West Virginia got against them and how many foul calls Iowa got for them. They were on opposite ends of the spectrum, things that hadn't happened much all year. That's where I think you start to go, come on here. Because, listen, West Virginia was going to have more fouls in that game. Mm-hmm. Iowa was going to shoot more free throws than West Virginia because of style of play. Iowa's not as physical on defense. Quite frankly, they don't guard. They don't even guard as well as they did the other night in most of their games, and I've watched most of them over the last 2 years. Their defense was pretty good the other night on West Virginia. But West Virginia's style and game plan was to get physical and body them, especially Caitlin Clark. So the fouls were going to be off balance. We can acknowledge that and know that. But some of those missed calls down the stretch when that game's tied with 2 minutes, they just weren't the right call. They just simply weren't. I'll give you numbers after you give your statement here.
Well, my thought on that is this, and I said this back on Sportsline. I host that program
2 nights a week,
Monday through Friday, consistently there for all involved. And my point was this: the NCAA failed. The NCAA failed in this. And they failed in this because one of the storylines coming out of the officiating was that a West Virginian was on the crew. And a West Virginian who lives in Fairmont. So immediately that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's wrong. And it's unfair to him.
Yes.
It's unfair to West Virginia because West Virginia potentially could not get calls because the official didn't want to seem as though it was favoring West Virginia, so it hurts there. And if it went the other way and West Virginia got calls, then the Iowa people. So you put yourself, NCAA, in a position to be criticized. You must live beyond reproach in these situations. And it's pretty easy to do. It's pretty easy to take him out and don't even set that scenario up. That's one. Two, that's the wrong time to have a bad game as an officiating crew.
You think?
Because you're there because you're supposed to be among the best. And this is a spotlight game with the premier team in the country who has the premier player and the all-time leading scorer. That's not the day that you can have a bad day. And here's what happened. And I've seen 1,000+ games. The game got too big. And people on that crew shrunk as a result because they don't normally work in front of 14,000+ in those environments. And they normally work when so much is on the line as to whether one team advances or not. And what pissed me off were not missed calls, were phantom calls. Mm-hmm. A lack of contact being a call. It should be the other way. It should be, okay, so you could see they got slapped and you're just going to go, they were letting them play. But when there isn't significant contact, advantage, disadvantage, and you make the call, you shrunk to the moment and it got too big for you. And the great ones, athletes, coaches, players, broadcasters, it doesn't get too big. When it gets big, you go like, I got it. And they didn't. Mm-hmm. That's what made me upset. Now, with all that said, I'm going back to everything that you said. It absolutely was a storyline of the game, but West Virginia could have made some shots, and you beat them.
You could, but what drives me nuts about that comment, and of course that's right. That's right every game. But you also don't call the foul on Kyle Watson in the lane that didn't happen. It's not an and one. You also don't miss the hook and hold that was on Stolke that you called on Tears of More that you then went to review. And they had to look at that video and go, oh, God, we missed that call, but we can't reverse it. So that does change the game. That's akin to missing a three-point shot. That's similar to missing a layup. And West Virginia missed a lot of inside shots. That's part of the story. But those missed calls, Caitlin Clark pushes off and steps back, creates space, and makes a shot. That is just like a missed shot from West Virginia. So I don't know that we can just say West Virginia's got to make 2 more layups or 1 more 3. It's just as easy to say don't miss those calls. That did have a significant impact. And I'm not talking about a game that Iowa won by 10 or went away. That game's tied with 2 minutes to go. Those calls down the stretch, the ones that we just mentioned, the phantom on Kyle Watson in the lane, that absolutely changed the game. Mm-hmm. Changed the game. The hook and hold on the other end changed the game. I don't know how you can look at that, right? I mean, that should be on an instructional video.
It will.
The Iowa player had West Virginia's player hooked and was holding her and pulled down. So go ahead.
I'm just going to make one other point, not about the officiating, but about the game broadcast, is that I heard from a lot of people like, oh, it was so pro-Iowa, and the announcers, everybody's in on Iowa. I have zero problem with that. Zero problem with that, because we're in the same business. The attraction was Iowa. The attraction was Caitlin Clark. West Virginia was not the attraction. It could have been any team. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. Could have been playing the Lakers, and Caitlin Clark and Iowa was still the story. So I get that. And so I take no issue with that, even though it was hard for West Virginia fans to watch it at times because of that.
So with that being said, I think the reason a lot of people raise that complaint is that you're starting off with a premise that you think it's supposed to be 50-50. Okay? So if you do that, then you can absolutely raise your hand up and say, like, wait, it wasn't fair. It wasn't balanced. This is not at all about fair and balance. That's not how they begin
It's not
this.
journalism.
This is not journalism. This is telling a visual story of a game. And as Hoppy said, the main attraction was Caitlin Clark. They're going to tell that story because the majority of people aren't vested in West Virginia. They're vested in Caitlin Clark and women's basketball and what she does as the all-time leading scorer. So if West Virginia had Caitlin Clark on its team, the storyline would have been Caitlin Clark. So don't begin a game and go like, wait a second, they weren't being fair. They don't care. They're telling a visual story. Correct or not, they're going to tell a story. So if you try to play 50-50, that'll never happen to you. You just like, here's a nice suggestion for you. Turn the frickin' TV down and turn the radio on and sync it up. You'll get the West Virginia broadcast.
You know, I think about some football games of years past, and during the Major Harris era, and CBS came in, West Virginia's playing Penn State, and Brent Musburger says, you come across the Star City Bridge if you're lucky enough to have a ticket to the ball game, and Major Harris. I mean, Major Harris was the story. By the same token, when West Virginia played Boston College years ago and they had Doug Flutie was the story. That's the attraction, and that's what you live with when you're playing in that environment, in that level.
Now, to finish this on an upswing, that's why I think West Virginia should be so proud of what they did. They turned themselves into the story by the end of the game, right?
Yes.
With the way they played, the way they handled it in Hop. From the branding perspective, the national story coming out of there is West Virginia got hosed.
Yes.
So West Virginia doesn't even, I mean, this will be the last time we have to scream and yell about it on this platform, but West Virginia doesn't need to scream about it.
No.
Right?
No.
They just walk away and say, yeah, because everybody else is talking about that part of it. So branding-wise, yeah, I thought West Virginia, you get greedy, though, don't you? You get into the game. Like going into the game, we said, hey, play with them, make it a game, better your situation, help you with recruiting, and walk out of there, and that's a good night. And you get into that thing and it's tied in 2 minutes, you're going, screw that, man. Win the game.
Yeah.
Like, win the game. So your expectations change a little bit. But that was a good night. At the end of the day, I believe that was a good night for Mark Kellogg and this program moving forward.
There's no question. And also, 4.9 million people watched it, but I would say 98% of women's basketball players watched it, okay? Yeah. So when Mark Kellogg goes out recruiting and say, oh, as you saw the other night, we could really use you on our team because we were just within a couple points of beating Iowa, et cetera, et cetera. There you go.
I talked to him yesterday, and he said he had a phone call with a girl the day after. Mm-hmm. And he said, a prospect, and she said, Coach, she said, I love the way that Harrison and Quinterly play.
Boom.
He goes, so like for the first time, I'm not going, yeah, we're like 75 miles south of Pittsburgh. I don't have to explain who J.J. Quinterly is.
Right.
She already knew it. Yeah. And so that's that bounce that you're trying to get, and you pill off of that.
Like how much bounce did West Virginia get off people like, oh, I watched Pat White and Steve Slayton, that. And that's how it works. So you come away with everything. From that game, you come away with everything except the victory.
I heard that. That's what I heard.
Is that what I said or you said?
I said at the top of the show, but you don't listen because you think it's live.
I'm sorry, said Tony Carita.
No, he doesn't listen in either.
What?
He's attacking you for that. He'll do the same thing coming up here.
So he's being prickly. This is what's going to break this whole group
Speak
up.
the truth.
You know who's not
You're
prickly?
attacking him for not listening. You rarely listen.
We'll get together for a tour.
Even though you tried to attack me, I'm trying to help you because he.
Did I attack you? I think I thought it was obvious, but
prickly. You know who's not prickly?
I order for myself at restaurants. I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you who's not prickly. Bob over there, Comax Business Systems.
Are you sure?
Oh, guys is nice.
Saint.
He's a saint. Nice as a peach. Comax Business Systems is a proud sponsor of Three Guys Before the Game. Let me tell you a little bit about what they do. They've got every single piece of office machinery that you could think of in the world. Exactly. In the world. Like you bring them like 10 tons of paper and say, I need a hole punch through all these at the same time. They go like, got that. Take care of that for you. Printer, whatever you need. But besides all the office equipment, they also can provide remote monitoring for your business network, which in this time of people trying to get in and steal stuff, how's your security? They'll come in and do a free computer colonoscopy, as we like to call it. And when it comes to phone systems, ready to go from 1 digital line to 1,000 lines. So contact them, ComaxWV.com. That's ComaxWV.com. All right. The other big chunk of news was the official press conference Thursday 11 a.m. Eastern. You think Coach DeVries, like when he was in that plane flying in from Iowa the other day, like took his watch and just slowly took the little thing on that and just moved it back an hour and said, "This is home for me now. I'm an Eastern time zone guy."
It's interesting. He'll he pushed it ahead.
Pushed it forward.
Ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, bad. My bag.
This will be an adjustment. Been a Central time zone guy his whole life.
Been cheating on that 10 o'clock game, hasn't he?
Yeah. Now he's going welcome to East Coast, which, by the way, 12:45 a.m. last night, that Iowa State game ends.
Excuse me?
What?
12:45 a.m.
That's not right.
In Boston. It was being played in the Eastern time zone. That's a whole other tangent. You think I'm prickly? I'll get prickly about that. NCAA's got to fix those times.
Yeah, good luck.
Never mind for old people like us, but I'm being serious here. I know it sounds old manish, but how is a kid, a high school kid, younger, how are you supposed to watch the NCAA tournament?
Because it's 9:45 in Los Angeles. That's what they tell you.
Great.
9:45.
It's 12:30 a.m. in New York City, too.
I get you.
New York's a couple people live in New York City as well.
I'm just saying, that's what they're going to get you on. They're going to get you, well, guess what? It's 9:45 in the West.
Fix it.
You know what? That's even pretty late in the West.
Fix it.
Yeah.
It's off. But anyway, go ahead.
So anyway, so Coach DeVries had to move his watch. Anyway, he got here. He was on time, 11 a.m.
Of course he was.
And he spoke to media members. And we might play a snippet or two here. Harvester, you watched it? Listened to it at some point?
I tried to, but
don't play that game.
Well, because I was getting texts, people think it was our fault, but nevertheless, one thing, Jeff Jenkins and I were talking about it, and he pointed to this. I'll tell you what stood out to me. Two things stood out. One was, and this actually was an interview with Ren Baker, was how much Coach DeVries knew about West Virginia. He had done his homework to the point where during the interview process, Ren Baker was like taken aback at how much he knew about West Virginia, which is important because if you want the job, Brad, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Research.
And then his comments, this stood up. We will look for young men that have talent and intangibles. I'm a firm believer that if you stack talent and intangibles and put together a group of men like that in the locker room, that equates to winning. We'll have a locker room filled with winners, and winners aren't necessarily just about scoring baskets. They have a discipline, toughness, unselfishness that stands tall in all situations, and we will teach them to apply those to all phases of their life. Brad, does that sound like a mountaineer spirit type of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound like us?
It does.
So that to me represents a strong cultural link there between what he wants to do and what we believe that West Virginia is. So there's that. And also just from the hire and from the press conference, he's 2 for 2. You got to go, you got to get guys, you got to win games. But, I mean, he's 2 for 2.
I had the distinct pleasure of watching the first interaction between Brad and Coach DeVries.
The two Iowa guys.
I turned to my left, and there it was. I mean, like two old chums from the cornfields of Iowa.
Do you know so-and-so? Yeah, I know so-and-so.
Oh, they were right into it, giggling, smiling and giggling. Oh, yeah, Applington, Parkersburg. Oh, it's great. Yeah, I was over
I lifted weights there.
I mean, it was like old home week for you when I watched you over there.
Boys.
What I walked away with him was, as first reported on this program, he was going to be a good fit, and fans are going to like the demeanor part of Darren DeVries, and there's plenty of time to digest the X's and O's, and we'll get into that, and you'll see that coming. But I just thought he came off as he was, guys. There isn't a lot of showiness. There isn't a lot of pomp and circumstance. He's just like a lot of Iowans and just like a lot of West Virginians. I've said many times in all seriousness, I think there's a lot of similarities between the people of both states. And so I think he will be able to make that transition very well. He spoke plainly, clearly, articulated what he wanted. And when you met him and you were one-on-one with him, as I watched other interactions with fans after I got done talking to him, that's what you get. That's what he is. He understands basketball. He likes basketball. He loves his family, and he's going to really enjoy it here. Now you've just got to go put the players in place and go win the games. But I think you've got a guy that's a basketball coach that really wants to be here, that truly understands the tradition and the history of this place and the support that it now has. And I think, like we said from the very, very beginning, I think you've got a really good fit.
Yeah. My takeaway, what I liked was, and I'll say this and then put it into context, he's a no BS guy. And sometimes when you say, well, he's a no BS guy, that sounds like the person is stoic or stern. But it's no. it's when I say no BS guy, he's not putting on any fronts. He's not pretending to be something. As I said last night on Sportsline, you're probably not listening, Hoppy. Not like PJ Fleck when he got up there and did his row your boat, or Kelsey. Kelsey at Louisville, did you hear his thing that he did about he went to heaven and all the houses? There was a blue house. Where's the red house? Well, that red house, that's where God lived. Okay, fine. He didn't have any rehearsed BS skits. He just like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get high quality kids. We're going to coach the hell out of them. Yeah. We're going to be tough, and we're going to win. I get the state. I understand what you need. I got it. Yeah. That's what it was. That's all you want. What are you giggling about over there?
What are you chortling about, Red?
There's no skits.
But these guys, that's
on SNL.
That's what they do.
There were no skits.
Oh, when Kelsey, hey, dude, when Kelsey went up to that microphone, he had his SNL skit all lined up. I'm going to give him the heaven joke, and the red house is going to be a Louisville house. God lives there.
All due respect, Pat Kelsey.
Oh, gee, stop with this stuff. Just stop. That's what I liked.
That's
like,
and you know what?
No drama. He got no drama. He got no bull. He didn't.
He's going to come in and coach.
He's going to come in and go like.
He's on the phone today in the transfer portal trying to get guys.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing.
And that's a good fit here. And that to me reminds me that is Neil Brown-esque. That is exactly. John Beeline-esque to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I know what you call it. Why'd that make you laugh? SNL skit. But that's what these guys get up there and they try to put on like a show.
There's no skit. It was
They try to like just. I don't care. You don't need to win the press conference for me. Go under the screen or go over the screen and get up in someone's face. All right. One thing I do want to play this from the presser because I thought this was interesting, and then we'll kind of lean into.
Tucker was there in a sling having. Surgery?
Had surgery.
We're going to get to the aforementioned Tucker DeVries in just a second.
Okay, I'll shut up. Go ahead.
Hold on.
All right.
Hold on.
I was worried there. So our number one
portal guy come out with a sling. I did the same thing. Immediately stood up in my seat. Like,
Excuse me? What?
What's happening over there?
Yeah, I think exactly. I think this is the cut where he explains defense and transition. So let's do this if we could, Austin. The one that says his system in the Big 12 runs 1 minute and 32 seconds in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, the style of play, the Big 12 is obviously a very defensive-oriented league. It's a very physical league. The Missouri Valley has had a lot of that as well. It's just a different level of physicality. So there's no question that in order to be successful in the Big 12, you have to defend. You have to be able to rebound. You have to have some physicality to you. Your team has to have some toughness. We will recruit to that. We will coach to that. We will teach that. And then on the, from a philosophy standpoint, how do you win games? You have to take care of the ball. You have to defensive rebound. You have to guard. Those three things that's winning. And if you can do those three areas well, you have a chance to win every single night. So we will try to do that. Offensively, it starts with getting stops. But once we get the ball, I think when you reach out and you talk to people in our league, the thing they fear the most is our transition game. And that has to come off of getting defensive stops. It's not something we talk about every day, it's something we do every day. If you come watch us practice, we're going to practice transition. Our goal is to score in the first 12 seconds of every possession. Because if you can score against a broken defense, it gives you opportunity to score a lot better chance. And that's what we're going to try to do. It's what we'll emphasize every single day. Teams in this league, they go offensive rebound. So you have to make them pay for doing that. And you have to get bodies on people. You have to be physical. And then once you get it, you have to get out and transition and run.
So that's all of, if you put that equation together, that's a fun style of basketball.
Yeah.
So you rebound, you throw it out and into the outlet in transition, and you try to get down the floor as quick as possible, and you're going to do what? You're going to spot people up. So high probability from a volume standpoint. While watching a game inside the Coliseum, you're going to get a quick boom, boom, open three, boom. So I think there'll be a lot of those. Mm-hmm. Brad, you know what that leads into, don't you, Brad? If you do that twice, timeout. Right? You come down, you hit a couple of those, the crowd's going,
yeah, 12,000 people.
So it's a fun style.
Yeah.
So it's a fun style if obviously you can accomplish that.
Okay, as I often do here, let's get a little more in the weeds there, because this also isn't like watching Alabama that doesn't play defense and just runs up and down the floor to score. teams will figure out that's what they want to do. What DeVries' teams want to do is get out and transition. So that was important what he said right there. There's a reason his Drake teams are always top 5 in defensive rebounding, and he was number 2 this last season nationally in defensive rebounding. One of the things that has to happen there, and I'm interested to see how this plays in the Big 12, he pointed out that teams in this league are really good on the offensive glass. And Hop, I don't know how many times we came in here with our scouting reports and said, okay, this is an elite offensive rebounding team West Virginia's playing. There's like 4 or 5 of those in the league. But one thing that you have to be careful of, if you want to crash the glass, what are you doing? You're leaving the other end open. So one of the things teams do against Drake teams is they can't crash the offensive glass as hard because they've got to get back defensively. So if you look at his Drake teams over the last couple of years, and they're fast.
Wait a second. Is this spreads on stat?
I've got more on that.
Huh? So this is what?
You can do a stinger if you want.
The 3-second one? All right. Hang on a second.
It was loud.
That was really, I just blew my ears up.
The official Conley CPA portion of the program will be coming up here in just a minute.
All right, fine.
But if you look at his Drake team's fast break numbers or percentage of points off the fast break over the last 2 years, you wouldn't have equate that just in itself with transition. But that tells me other teams in the Valley, what did he just say? What do they fear most about us? Transition. So in your scouting report on Drake's, you've said what? Don't let him get out in transition. You got to get back. Well, then what's affected by that?
Then your offensive
rebounding.
Yeah.
What is aided by that? Drake's defensive rebounding, because there are not as many people crashing. So there's a bunch of different ways to limit somebody's offensive rebounding. This is one way. It won't be a team that's running up and down on you, but it's a team that, you know what, you don't get back, we're going right by you. And then it comes into the 3-point percentage, top 40 in the country. It comes into 2-point field goal efficiency, top 30 in the country for Drake teams. So that all kind of works together in concert there.
That's what you just said is pick your poison. So you want to go crash? You want to go crash the offensive glass? We're going to run right down the floor and score on you. You're not going to crush the offensive glass? Well, then we're going to beat the hell out of you in defensive rebounds.
And then be efficient when we get offensively and run 5 out, good stuff, and we're cutting all over you. So it's really, again, guy's a good basketball coach, and this is a holistic approach to the game. It's not where you just are going to do this and be elite in this at the expense of everything else.
So, Brad, it's not about just fast breaking and trying to get the layup. It's just about rapid transition to get the open shot before the defense sets up.
And get a good look. And if it's there, we take it.
Okay.
Yeah, and because the point is, and he goes on to talk about this, and he's right. We talked about this about West Virginia's team last year. One of the ways to avoid playing against really good defenses is to what? Try and beat them down the floor and get some easy shots so they don't set up that really good defense. That's applicable to the Big 12, where there's so many teams, like Houston and Iowa State as examples. If you get into a half-court battle with them, they're going to choke you out, right? That's tough style to beat. So if you can get some transition buckets or free throws against those defenses, that helps you when you have not as efficient offensive possessions, which is going to happen against elite defensive teams. It's really fascinating. And again, I know I like to get more in the weeds on the X's and O's than most of you listening. I understand that. I don't want your eyes to glaze over. But if you listen to him, and if you listen to him in the coming months on this stuff, it's going to be a really good basketball education.
So that gets back to him talking about recruiting players to the system almost Beeline-esque, as opposed to just getting scorers and try to figure it out later.
Yes. And so that's probably the next wave in this portal is it's going to go from we've got all this money and we're throwing around money and we're just going to amass talent to I think schools and teams are going to get more targeted and specific on this is what we need. Here's our budget. This is what we need. And Tucker DeVries is going to get this much. And now we have this much for a point guard. And now we need a 4. And you better get a 4. And we need 2 2s. Let's put this money into the 2 2s. I think it becomes a more scientific and holistic approach.
Sounds a little bit like a professional model.
That's where we're headed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds a little bit like
so
a
instead
model.
of just the Brinks truck back door is open and money is flying out and whoever wants to come behind, get as much as you can and come join us, I think now the salary cap structure and management of that salary cap will become more important.
This is what the left tackle gets paid. This is what the quarterback gets paid.
Those numbers are normalized,
right? This is what the cornerback gets paid.
Yeah. And here's what an elite top 5 guy in the transfer portal should get paid, and then you go down the list. So I think schools around the country, now that they've done it for a couple of years, and Tony, listen, we had Neil in here, and he talked about that, about understanding how the collective and the NIL and the transfer portal all are going to work in concert. Hence, Drew Fabianich comes in as a new hire in a new position. So basketball's coming around to that, I think.
3 Guys Before the Game is brought to us by Lou Wendell Marine Sales. I mean, you don't need me to tell you. You already know that the flowers are blooming, the buds are popping, and the water's getting warmer. And that means it's time for Lou Wendell Marine Sales to become a big part of your life, because it won't be long where it's going to be time to go out onto the lake, the river, an ocean, causeway, whatever you need. Didn't think I'd get causeway in there.
Did not think you would.
Lou Wendell Marine Sales is the premier pontoon boat dealer in the state of West Virginia, and they've been doing it now nearly for half of a century. Located in St. Albans, U.S.-made Avalon Tri-Tune, well, Avalon boats. They'll make a Tri-Tune. They'll make any kind of tune you want. They'll make you a happy tune when you get inside that pontoon, and right now they've got a 3-guy special. Let's take a look at that, shall we? It's the 2023 Avalon Tri-Tune Venture 85 CR 23-footer.
Estuaries.
Absolutely dandy.
Floodplains.
Waterway. Water district. 2023 Honda 115 horsepower motor as well.
Wetlands.
Available to you Monday through Friday. They're open from 8:30 until 5. Sundays open 1 till 5. Visit LouWendellMarineSales.com. Tell them 3 guys sent you. We'd love to pontoon with you.
Drains.
Drains. You ready?
Sure.
You sure? All right. Let's do this.
So I checked the numbers. We'll just go right to the numbers. Here comes a heater.
Let's jump into the analytics portion of the show.
Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2.
Spreads on Stats is brought to us by the Conley CPA Group. They provide complete public service accounting and consultation, serving clients throughout our state, the entire state, all 55 counties. One could say from Weirton to Welch, Martinsburg to Matewan, and all points in between, and surrounding states as well, since 1980 and 5. Providing you with value beyond the numbers. If you're a business owner, they will take you to the side and they will say, you know, you could do this a little bit better if you do this. And you go, why didn't I think of that? I'm saving how much? Visit Conley CPA Group. The games are over, so what are your numbers?
Let's do 2 things. One, put a final bow, our second final bow of the show, on some of these Iowa, West Virginia free throw numbers. So
we're going back there?
I want to put some context to what we all said. And then let's do a little analytical number breakdown on West Virginia's first and top portal recruit, Tucker DeVries. Yes, we'll do both those. Real quick on Iowa and West Virginia. Here's some numbers to pay attention to. If you listen to this show, you've heard us talk about free throw attempt rate all season. So that's free throw attempts divided by field goal attempts, and it gives you a good idea, Hoppy, not just straight raw numbers of how many times you go to the line, but how many times you're going to the line in comparison to how many field goal attempts you get, right? And West Virginia, as we know, when their number got to 44% free throw attempt rate or higher, they won their games. If it stayed below that, they didn't. So it's an important way to score. Iowa's season average, the Iowa Hawkeyes season average is 31%. So a little bit lower, which would make sense because it was a perimeter-based team that liked to shoot threes. So that would make some sense. 31% on the year. In the game against West Virginia, Hoppy, it was 64%.
Wow.
So it didn't just take an increase, which you would expect with style of play. It took a massive jump. It more than doubled. It was only the second time all season Iowa had a free throw attempt rate greater than 49%.
And it blew past 49%.
Blew past that. It wasn't even close. So a real statistical outlier when it came to the Iowa Hawkeyes. On the other side, West Virginia's free throw attempt rate, 33% on the season. Same thing. A team that liked to shoot three-pointers did get to the basket, but a lot of times in transition. So 33% on the season. 8% versus Iowa.
Yeah, that's
8%. That was a season low for West Virginia. So you had a season high for Iowa, a season low for West Virginia. There were only 2 games all season where the Mountaineers had less than a 10% free throw attempt rate. Okay. I put a couple of those numbers out on Twitter, and of course the Iowa fans found me and wanted to jump on me. And one of the things they kept saying was the reason those numbers are what they are. We had a lot of people doing Conley CPA spreads on stats, and they were telling me that the reason those numbers reflected the disparity was because of this, Hoppy. They said, well, all West Virginia did was just stand around and shoot three-pointers.
Well, that's not exactly true.
So Iowa went to the basket, and if you go to the basket, you're going to get fouled more. If you stand around and just shoot threes, then you're not going to get the calls, and that was their collective case back to me. I would just say this. May surprise you boys to know that Iowa or West Virginia had more shot attempts at the rim than Iowa did. May surprise you to know West Virginia had more shot attempts in the paint, Hoppy, than Iowa did. So I'm not sure that was accurate. Another quote.
Kind of shut that down.
It's West Virginia's defensive style That's how they play. They foul a lot, was another common refrain.
Brad, is that perception or reality?
Well, I'll say this. That was the third highest opponent free throw rate attempt all season. So West Virginia played the way it played all season, and there were only 2 other games that had a higher opponent free throw attempt rate than that Iowa game did.
Had to be against K-State or Iowa State.
Nope, it was against Charlotte and UCF. West Virginia won both of those games easily. So that isn't the way it is the way West Virginia played. The way the game was called was not how the game was called all season. I think that's the point. Now listen, there's variance in the NCAA tournament. We have talked about this on different sides of this fence for decades. When it was John Beilein, we would say, Tony, what? We'd go into the NCAA tournament and go, oh, thank God. We're getting away from Big East officials that let people just kill West Virginia's cutters in the lane. Now we'll get some officials that will call those fouls. And a lot of times they did, guys. NCAA officiating benefited West Virginia a lot in John Beilein's days. When Huggs was the coach, we said what? Don't call anything. Don't look. Done. That's not a foul.
Unless there's a warrant.
You can hip check the guy in the lane. You can knock him straight down. That's not a foul. So we've been on both sides of the officiating style difference. That's my final point on this. The officiating style was not necessarily what West Virginia's defense had faced all year.
Fair point.
The defense rests
Well done
on that.
Yeah, well done. So last night on the lower third on the ESPN, kept flashing. Tucker DeVries commits to, signs with West Virginia, and he will join the Mountaineer program. Well, at least one service had him out there as the #1 available player in the transfer portal. So it's a massive pickup. You know, it kind of gets, to be honest with you, it gets kind of lost.
It would be the story if it weren't that you hired a new coach.
If Darren DeVries was not the coach and you had just signed Tucker DeVries, we would have led the show with it.
Oh, absolutely. It'd be a national
This is
story.
Jesse Edwards-S, like we did last year. Jesse,
Correct.
one of the top 2 available transfers. That was a massive story. That's where Tucker sits as of today.
Okay, so you're going to do more. You break down on him a little bit. What did West Virginia just get?
Yeah, you want to talk a little bit about him?
Very nice kid, by the way. I spoke with him on a couple of occasions. Just very, very nice.
Let's start, though. Hoppy mentioned it there. Let's do the recap, though, because he came walking out of the tunnel. It was a little bit of a surprise to see him live. His arm was in a sling.
Had surgery in New York this week on Tuesday to repair something in his shoulder, and went extremely well. But like his dad said, like, you ever see a surgeon come out and go, didn't quite get what we needed to get. So Doc said it went well.
Shooting shoulder?
I'm trying to think. Where was it? I don't know.
Yeah, I believe so. It was his right shoulder, wasn't it?
Yeah, so he had previous surgery on his labrum. He had a labrum repaired earlier, so this is something that they needed to get done. So it'll be a while. He'll be ready to go for the start of the season, and off you go. So anyway, long story short, he's going to be just fine. And Senator has gone in and said, okay, break him down. This is a dude scored a lot of points.
I heard last night on the broadcast, the Illinois game, Terrence Shannon, who is a tremendous offensive talent, led the country in scoring, right? What was he, 24.9, something like that on the year? DeVries, 24.3. Sits in the top 1% of all scores per 40 minutes. So this isn't necessarily a per game
Per
scoring.
40 minutes.
Per 40 minutes. So everything I say, Hoppy, is per 40 minutes.
Okay.
You don't necessarily play 40 minutes per game. Okay, so balance that out. But an elite scorer, he can shoot it from 2. He's comfortable at 2, really good in the mid-range game, but can step out from 3 and bang that as well, a 36% three-point shooter. If you start to go across and hop, I know you can't see it exactly, but if you start to look at this, green is good, red is not so good. You look across his numbers, it's almost all green, and it's a guy that has done a lot for Drake. Points, shooting, assists. He's right neck and neck with the assist leaders on that team. Offensive rebounds, he can get those. Defensive rebounding, he's one of the best in the country per 40 minutes. He steals. He can get a block now and then. Draws fouls. So this is a talented player, guys. 2-time Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year. He does a little bit of everything. You start to look and go down some of his shooting spots. You know how we like to do that, Tony. We like to go into
Where does he like
the
it?
zones where he likes
I'm
it.
going to make a guess.
Okay.
Everywhere.
Top of the three-point circle.
Very good.
He likes it.
So that's his top area of percentage of shots taken are at the very top of the key, 20%. But his most effective spot is over on that left wing, a near 44% shooter from 3 from the left wing. Ooh. And he's a guy, Hop, I want you to see this too. He works in a diagonal frame. Look at this. So if you go left wing 3 and run diagonally through the lane, he steps into the mid-range and can shoot it. He steps into the lane on that left-hand side, he can shoot it. He steps onto the right block, he can shoot it from there. So it's a guy, he really just goes all over. And if you watch Drake at all, he can handle, right? He's the focal point of that offense. That's not just a guy they have to run off picks to get the ball. It's not just a guy that posts up. He is all over the floor.
So I got to play. I'm going to suggest this to the coach.
What?
I'm going to suggest this to the coach.
Oh, boy.
Is get out and get the defensive rebound, get out and transition, and it looks like you're driving to the basket. The defense is not set up yet, and you kick it out to Tucker DeVries in the left corner, Brad, and he shoots. What do you think?
How about right corner?
Oh, right corner.
Yeah, but he doesn't shoot from the corner a whole lot. Can you post him up get him on the wing?
Okay.
So you want him in transition down
I thought
the
you
wing.
said he shot from the corner effectively.
Wing.
Oh, I'm
Left
sorry.
wing.
Left wing.
Okay.
And
So
the
you
top
get
of
him on
circle.
the left side in transition, get him down the floor and there.
Anyway.
So you want to drive and a kick.
I want to drive in a
You
kick.
drive and a kick.
What do you think?
Pretty revolutionary concept right there, huh?
Well, I tell you what, I got another idea.
You'll get some drive and kick. I think that play will be.
Drive and kick.
Yeah, I think Coach
Another
DeVries will like that advice from you. That's a good one.
Is bring the
Yep.
big guy out to the high post,
Yeah.
and then he passes the ball, but then the guy rolls and goes to the basket.
You like that too?
Yeah.
You want to open up the lane there for some cutters? Okay, good. You're
I'm
on
just
it.
talking about
Percival's on it.
who invented the pick and roll, and I hope they're making money off of it because everybody runs the pick and roll all the time.
Yeah, very popular now. Very popular. Get the 2-man game.
Yeah,
and then you have a guy off on the wing in the
Right,
corner
kick
to
it out to
kick
him,
off
yeah.
that. Yeah. So anyway, so point being, you're getting a really talented player here in Tucker DeVries, and guys, I think maybe even if you can say more so than the on court, which is going to be invaluable for a kid with his talent or a guy with his talent. Being able to start your culture and establish your locker room with your son, who's also probably your best player. And Tony, as we said last night on Sportsline, if Tucker ends up not being your best player, that's really good.
Good problem.
That's really good. That means you went out and got a couple some dudes. But being able to start and establish your culture with a guy that intimately gets it, that's probably invaluable as well.
Do you think he's an NBA guy?
I'll say this. The NBA is looking at him.
Okay.
Yeah, the NBA he's absolutely on the NBA radar. This is a guy who's a top 60 recruit. So this isn't necessarily a guy that's just been putting up numbers against a level that is not suitable for him. He could have been somewhere else. Mm-hmm. He could have been playing in the Big 12 already. Now, what you need to see is how this game translates out.
Sure.
He's going to face bigger, more athletic guys more consistently than he ever has. So I think that's part of the attraction of West Virginia for both him and Darren, right? Okay, I think I'm one of the best in the world. Let me see how that translates up. You know who he's really similar to, guys? It's not. Where did Darren spend a lot of time? Creighton. And one of his mentors at Creighton was Greg McDermott.
Right.
Greg McDermott's son was, of course, Doug, multi-time player of the year in the conference, turned into an NBA guy, a really good player that learned how to adapt his game from playing at Creighton up to an NBA level and having success. So there's some really interesting parallels there.
Korver, how about Korver?
Kyle Korver was a Creighton guy.
Yeah.
Nate Funk.
Nate Funk.
Brad,
But the McDermott dad-son dynamic, Darren has seen this.
Also, if you're averaging 23, you're not getting 40 and none. I mean, you're probably getting somewhere in the 18 to 26 range, right? I mean, right? Most games.
Correct.
Okay. So and that to me is a big advantage, too, if you can sustain that or something like that, because what did West Virginia struggle with this year, too, is that who was going to get 20? Who was going to get 24? Maybe this guy, maybe not that guy. So consistency was a problem for the Mountaineers this year. Who can you count on night after night?
You want to hear some of his point totals, Hoppy?
Yeah.
So I'll just give you this. Once the entire season, he didn't finish with double figures.
That's.
So I'll just go let's just go back. I'm going to go to the month from January to the rest of the season. So this is all league.
Okay.
13, 29, 34, 25, 11, 18.
Did you say 39?
29, 34.
Okay.
Lined up, got the Salukis at SIU for 34. 25, 11, 18, 29, 17, 26, 27, 22, 17, 22, 21, 28, 39.
Cool.
That might have been the game. So that's the game that Gansey watched him play in. Mike Gansey went to scout him at UIC, Illinois, Chicago.
You get 39. I don't care who you're playing. You get 39.
Yeah, hit 7 threes. 29, 19, 17, 27, 14. So, yeah, he will score over 2,000 points this season. He's got 1,800 points already. That is a ton.
Yeah.
And that's in 4 years. Not like some of these guys have been here now because of COVID, 6 red shirts in their 9th year. That's a ton of points.
But as Brad said, it's going to be the defense. It's going to be tougher competition.
So that's why that's a wonderful starting point in first piece. And as Coach DeVries knows very well, you're going to need more guys. Yeah. I mean, you're going to have multiple guys that are going to come up because your scouting report begins with, okay,
stop this guy.
He's 6'7" and can do it. Guess what we have on our team? We have 2 6'9" guys and a 6'7" guy that are athletic and can guard wings. So let's go. Yeah. So you're going to have some help for him. So don't expect 25 points a game out of Tucker DeVries. That's an unrealistic expectation coming into this league. But you did get an outstanding basketball player.
You get 15, 16. Probably get 15, 16.
Take that right now.
Yeah, probably 15, 16. Thank you very much, Brad.
Well done.
Is that shutting the curtain on Conley CPA for the season?
That might.
That'll be it for the season.
That might.
Yeah, we'll bring. Okay. Thank you very much, Conley CPA Group. No more games. No more numbers.
Well, baseball might be some numbers there.
I don't think the software that he has, Hop, is necessarily baseball. Interesting conversation on the court yesterday afternoon. Besides in there rubbing elbows with Coach DeVries, he and Coach Kellogg were in there, and they were talking analytics. And Coach Kellogg bit incredulous over the numbers that Brad has. And he gave him this one. Where are you getting that stuff? Because I listen and you're like banging game plans like perfectly. And you know what what Mr. Prickly said?
What?
I ain't telling you.
Oh.
But then he
really?
did. But then he did.
You told him.
Then he did.
You're missing the boat, man. You're an analyst.
I offered my services.
He did. You needed some help. He said, I got you. Let me know.
Here to help.
3 Guys Before the Game is brought to us by Gomart. Now, you get that rewards card. Check this out. Until April the 30th, here's the bonuses you're getting for individual products for your card. You get the card, then you start racking up these rewards points, which get you free food, gas. If you just buy a Slim Jim Savage Original, through the end of April, you get 150 bonus points, and you get the yellow game token. Slim Jim Savage Mild, 150 with the blue token. Slim Jim Savage Spicy, you get the red token and 150 points. You go C4 Energy, 300 bonus rewards points in the C4 purple token. Then C4 300 bonus rewards points in the C4 pink game token. Basically, buy Slim Jims, buy C4 Energy, and you could probably, if you do it right, you could probably buy one of the Go-Mart stores. Just walk in there, give them the card, and say, hey, I'll take it from here, right?
Maybe. Unconfirmed with that.
Unconfirmed, but probably what we got going there.
Hey, real quick, one last thing before we leave the analytics side, Hop.
Yes.
In all seriousnness, the point of all those numbers, when we do the scouting reports, that's in essence what we do on this show. It's not as deep as you go, but that's what football teams are doing with the analyst role, right? That's part of it.
Yeah.
That's why those analytics are becoming so popular, is because you can look at the numbers and give your coaching staff a great start in what to look at. Then it becomes, you've got to watch the film and you've got to see what they do and you've got to know what your kids can do versus them. And there's a lot of dynamics that go into it. But the part of analytics bucket that's getting so big is that stuff right there.
Sure.
And basketball staffs will continue to grow their analytics department because you can work ahead and have a scouting report that's really good. Doesn't cover it all, but you can get a long way to what the scouting report is on the opponent just by studying those numbers and what the team likes to do. So that's why it's becoming popular, not just for us for the entertainment, we have fun with it, but that's why programs and schools are starting to take it so much more seriously.
Yeah. After the Iowa-West Virginia women's game, everyone needed a little healing. Just some healing, Hoppy. That's what it's all about. Just get some healing.
Feel better.
We got to heal. Got to let that scar heal up. It's going to leave a mark. Textual Healing is brought to us by episode800.com. Go to episode800.com. You'll see all the stuff that we sell, from our award-winning Game Day Grind coffee to the award-winning Mountaineer Munch popcorn and our apparel. Hoppy's the only dude that's wearing the gear today.
Very Easterish, too, by the way.
Perfectly done.
Yeah,
Thank you very
Easterish.
much.
Yeah.
By the way, yeah, okay, we'll get into that. So, 3 Guys Before the Game, episode 800.com.
I'll just get blown off.
No, I want to show him something in a second. It's going to be nice for you. Hoppy brought Brad and I treats. You can get these at
Well,
Gold.
the Easter Bunny did.
You get the so and he wrote on it in a magic marker. It says on there to from. It says to Tony from E Bunny. Guy by the name of E Bunny.
Thought you all would enjoy that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Easter.
much.
Yes.
Thank you. Do appreciate that.
So here we go from the text line. Monroe County. I mentioned Monroe County last time.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Texter says, Monroe County, beautiful and unspoiled. They actually used to have a stoplight in Union. Took it out. The electric bill was too high. County never grew after the Civil War. No coal. Reminds me of the Shenandoah Valley without the congestion of I-81.
Shenandoah Valley reference.
Sure. Texter, just finished episode 541. Great content as always. Great insight into Darren DeVries' style in the women's game. But the best part came when Tony was endorsing Gomart and said you could take your fly rod Slim Jim out to the crick. Not creek, like those city slickers say, but the crick. Thanks for all you do. Jim from Preston County.
Mm-hmm.
Jim's a great guy. He sent us a hell of a package. You remember that?
It was a hell of a package.
Hell of a package. Texter. Okay, it's Glenn from Scott Depot. I'm 50 years of age, and I've never heard tighter than Dick's Hat Band since my childhood. Ask Hoppy where that came from.
My mother.
She used to say that.
Yeah.
I loved it. I didn't even catch that you said that. Tighter than Dick's Hat Band.
My mother had a lot of those kind of sayings, you know, and half of them you didn't know what they meant, but they would apply in certain circumstances, you know, as you say it.
Yeah.
If you can get over the dog, you can get over the tail, stuff like that. Just,
Like hotter than a sweatband in a firefighter's helmet. That's one too. I like that one. Hoppy got us the men's soccer coach. Brad got us the men's basketball coach from Iowa.
Well,
Tony, you're on deck in Ritchie County. Mark. I don't know.
I mean, Hoppy did get us a soccer coach. I can't take credit for Darren.
Yeah. Texter.
well, the Iowa thing, though, has been
It's been fun.
right up your alley.
Excited for the Darren DeVries era to begin. He's a good addition to being. He's a good guy in addition to being a great coach. His wife's parents attend our church.
Oh, here we go.
So I've been following the search and trying to keep it low key with them. It'll be fun to have some more WV fans around here in Iowa. And I agree with your assessment, Brad. I think it is a good fit with similarities between West Virginians and Iowans. By the way, Tucker is his grandmother's maiden name. Just a bit of trivia.
Oh, good to know.
Good one.
So I asked him Darian to the dad, why is it Darren and not Darian?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, it is Darren, but it's spelled the way that it is because there was another Darren DeVries near them, and his mom didn't want to get their mail confused.
That is also Iowa.
True story.
Got a rural free delivery over here and
Yeah.
went to the wrong place.
Texter, that was from Evan in Iowa, by the way. Texter, it'd be interesting to hear y'all's insight and talk about how this coach's search was conducted compared to other searches you've seen. How does Wren's process, requirements, inner circle, data, blocking plain traffic websites, and so on compare or differ to how previous ADs ran their searches? It might be too soon to get into it, but maybe during the summer series, it would be interesting behind the scenes and look how things really work. I said this earlier this week, and I don't know where, whether it was Sportsline or whatever. It's not even close. This was the most comprehensive search for a coach in West Virginia athletics history, bar none, because technology has now allowed you to do it. I mean, in the old days, I think it truly did begin, Brad, with a guy that had like a list and like, how do you get a hold of this guy? How do you get this thing was an Excel spreadsheet that was voluminous columns, and it had all kinds of data, information. It was really, really thick. And it was as comprehensive as you could see.
Yeah, it absolutely was. It would be neat to kind of get really deeply inside, but it was spreadsheet-ish, right?
Oh, it was. It was.
And I think I said on the last show or somewhere that Gordon Gee, and he kept Gordon Gee in the loop, and Gee said that he's no slouch when it comes to intellect,
said, I didn't understand it. I didn't.
So it's like everything else, and it's just like the analytics we talked about. So in the old days, that list, the reason I always refer to the list in your top drawer, I mean, that's a real thing. My guy Lou, back in the 90s, as one of the elite athletic directors in the country, literally had a list in his drawer. I mean, I've seen the list, right? It was a sticky note with your names on it, and you'd cross out, then you'd add. Then when you crossed out too many, you go get a new sticky note, and you start writing your next 5 names for different sports. There weren't analytics. Quite frankly, there wasn't even really computers to work on that. Now that's advanced on, just like I'm able to give you good scouting reports because I've got access to those analytic databases. Now you can go in and you do your spreadsheets, and it's the same thing. It's just advanced a little further on. Here's the other thing that benefited Ren and WVU. The guy that they wanted most was also very interested in them more than other schools at the beginning.
Yes.
So right from the beginning, you have two that are in concert, and we like each other. Now let's get this thing to work and make sure we iron out the details and we really like each other. Sometimes in searches, the first person you want isn't their first choice, and then things start to go sideways. This worked out well that Ren had identified who he wanted, and that person also reciprocated, and you could get to the finish line a lot more smoothly. And you're not always that fortunate.
He was extremely aggressive. I mean, he was out, and he was
out early.
He was doing face-to-face before others were doing face-to-face, and as a result, I mean, you saw Oklahoma State kind of stumbled along because they got slower start.
Yeah,
he was aggressive.
He was ahead.
He attacked.
He felt like, and time matters, he felt like he was several days ahead of others, and you think, well, that's a big deal at that critical time.
Steve from St. Mary's, I'm headed to College Station, Texas, with my team of industrial firefighters last week. Landed at Chicago's Midway, connecting to Houston. Who do I run into but a nice bunch of young men, all dressed in gold and blue? Heading to Oklahoma, where we took 2 out of 3. Great bunch of young men. I talked to many of them, including the old skipper, with whom I had a picture taken by Reed Chumley. What a great bunch of young men everywhere you go, West Virginia connection. So he runs into the Mountaineer baseball team. They line up, take 2 out of 3 from first place Oklahoma. Now they got the Cowboys of Oak State here this weekend. We wish them the best. And Chumley, obviously being a great photographer, in addition to ripping the cover off the ball. Brian from Ripley, in-game text, complaining about the officiating. Thank you. And by the way, I already didn't put there was 100 text ripping the officials. We covered that enough. In the words of John Beilein after Louisville, our players were winners tonight in every way but the score. Kudos to Kellogg, the entire team. What a game, what a season. Absolutely nothing wrong with the status and the trajectory of this program. Hey, 3 guys, Josh in the Twin Cities, so that Westover in Morgantown. Tough way for the women's team to end the season. Didn't get the benefit of the whistle. Texter, you mentioned DeVries being on the Creighton staff in 2005. The block shot at the end, which I think was by Sally. Then the hockey assist from Pittsnoggle to Gansey to Sally for the dunk. A classic moment. The ball never touched the floor. It was a great game, only to be outdone by the round 2 victory over the Wake Forests. Then is now a great time to be a Mountaineer. Yeah, that play that you're talking about doesn't get talked about enough, but that's called, John Beilein had that, they call that perfection. Ball never touches the ground.
Coach DeVries still a little salty about that loss.
He is. Thought he got screwed on some calls. Stunner.
So two reasons. One, he'll fit in very well. Thinks he got screwed by the officials. And 2, nearly 20 years later, it still bums him out about the loss.
Yeah.
Perfect, right? Told you. He fit right in with the Mountaineers.
Well,
that's how we are.
Along that line, we were sitting there yesterday before the press conference started. You're just making small talk, just kind of killing time. And we started talking about officials. Now, we all have our officials that we know. And so we just started going like.
Doing names?
We just started throwing names. And like you could just like. Yeah. And he go, I'm good with him. No, I'm good with him. And then he go, all I say to him is good call, good call. So it's already done. And they see a ton of the officials that we see in the Missouri Valley. So it's not going to be starting from scratch. They work
Midwest
a lot of
guys. And
it's in that same that region of Big 12, Missouri Valley. They kind of share the Curtis Shaw is involved, who supervises for the Big 12, and he's involved in that league in some capacity. Texter, Question for Hopster. This is you.
Okay.
During the last episode, you alluded to Darren DeVries ignoring and or specifically not actioning on interest from other schools and committing to us in a sort of way. Was this conjecture or something you can confirm? I like the idea that the new coach felt passionate enough about the opportunity he was not entertaining others. James in South Carolina.
I got the impression in my reporting, I got the impression that, as I think Brad or you said earlier, that he was at the top of Ren Baker's list, and when there was interest expressed by WVU, that WVU was at the top of DeVries' list. So it was a matter of them heading with the same trajectory, okay? So Ren Baker was still talking to other people, talking to other potentials, and there were still other schools that were going after DeVries, but it was just, again, a trajectory that resulted in a hire. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how I see it. I mean, I don't know if he just completely stiff-armed everybody, but DeVries was number one on West Virginia's list, and West Virginia was number one on DeVries' list.
Yeah. Josh from Audra State Park. This is a Ren Baker appreciation text. I don't know a lot about ADs. Safe to say this has not been a normal first year for one. Year ago, women's coach leaves. The men's team goes through what they went through. Football staff was being evaluated. Volleyball needed a new coach. NIL picked up big time. Ren Baker's made a good decision on hires, evaluations, raise money, stable presence, fun personality, pivotal hire.
Yeah, he's had a year.
Mm-hmm.
Gary out of Tyler, Texas writes, I'm so proud of the ladies, how they played against Iowa. Really the entire season, pure joy to watch. I think that J.J. Quinterly said it best in the post-game press conference. She was asked, what's it going to be like to go toe-to-toe with Caitlin Clark? She said, golden opportunity, battling with the best in the world, and she and her team competed the entire 40. That's what we did the whole time, and nobody can take that away from us. Testimony to the statement was being tied in the final minutes. 4 starters with 4 fouls on the floor, fearlessly banging it out like true Mountaineers. As a fan, that's all you can ask for. Ladies delivered with flying colors, gold and blue. Gary in Tyler, Texas. Texter. Long text alert, but I think it's a good one. Hey there, 2, maybe 3 guys, long-time listener. My name is Kegan McLean. I'm a songwriter from Charleston. Last Saturday, did a show with Philip and Patrick Bowen at the Robinson Grand in Clarksburg, which is a
Very nice.
gorgeous theater.
I had Philip Bowen on my public affairs program. He's a fun guy.
Wonderful guy. Big 3 guys listener.
Talented guy.
Oh, super talented.
Yeah.
Got beat by a dog.
Excuse me?
Got beat by a dog in that national competition.
America's Got Talent?
Yeah.
Dog lined up, beat him?
Dog lined up, beat him.
That show's no good anymore. It went to the dogs.
Yeah.
While we were hanging in the green room, we obviously had the...
Yeah.
Still got a chance. Pretty good. Go ahead, Tony. Sorry.
While they were in the green room before they went on stage last week, they were watching WVU Princeton, and one of the things that came up was how much the game has changed in terms of physicality and officiating. I know there have been rule changes. I'm curious what you think the root cause of all that is. I think it's pretty relevant considering the Iowa game. I felt transported back to Allen Fieldhouse in 18. Yuck, I'm not blaming the refs. I just know how the game is officiated changed a lot. By the way, I'm going to shamelessly plug my new album, Old Flame, which is on all the streaming services, deeply influenced by my time growing up here in West Virginia. I love the podcast. Looking forward to 800.
Very good. What's the name of that album?
Old Flame.
I believe the album is entitled Old Flame by Kegan McLean, and he spells his name Khegan.
Excellent.
Texter, hey, 3 guys, I was reading an article about the contract for DeVries. Perks were interesting. Little surprised episode 800 merchandise was not included.
Good point.
I guess Ren Baker holding that back in case they need to close the deal.
Well, it was memorandum of understanding. It may come in the contract. So.
Yeah. Couldn't be any prouder of the women's team, signed by Phil Hall. No coincidence, this texter says that our new coach is from Iowa. After listening to Monday's episode, quite apparent that Brad made the coaching hire.
Untrue.
First, Hoppy hires the soccer coach. Brad closes the deal for the basketball program, and I'm certain Tony will now handpick the next WVU president. Three Guys has cemented his place as the Illuminati for all things WVU. We, as listeners, are not worthy. Signed by Stephen and Eleanor.
Not only unconfirmed about me hiring the basketball coach, untrue.
Untrue?
Untrue. Fully
Texter.
supportive of it, but did not.
But you have joyfully wallowed in the Iowa connection, which is fine because if you've had a lot of relevant data.
Been fun.
Texter, hey, Three Guys, my ass is pretty chapped over the officiating in the women's game. Did you realize there was a stretch from the start of the second quarter, 4:07 to go, into the third that Iowa's called one foul, 40% of the game? P.S. I appreciate you letting us know a couple of episodes back that the information that we heard on the podcast was time sensitive before rolling on to a hot Bewitched take for the next 12 minutes and 18 seconds. Spoiler alert, would have been nice. So would have a thanks for having us in Iowa City. Love the show, Pete from Pennsboro.
Very good, Pete. But the Bewitched was not time sensitive.
It was
you
not.
could still go back.
You could the timeless. The Bewitched reference is timeless.
So what should we recommend them for a chapped ass? Like, is there a cream, or what do you recommend on that, Hoppy? I mean, you're probably dealing with those issues.
That's a little bit TMI. But I'll just say this: there's a section in the
The drugstore.
in the drugstore that you can go, and that addresses that specifically.
Move along.
Hey, we should put some of that on episode 800.
This is where
That
it
would
goes
be
back.
good.
Listen, things are popping into your head right now that should not be said. I'm just telling you,
Dude.
he can reserve himself. You can't.
That would be great.
Go to the next text.
You know invariably that West Virginia is going to get screwed in the future by officials.
text.
We should offer some form of a cream or a lotion.
This very well could be the last episode. We're in a danger zone. Any minute this could go away because he can't help himself. Beavis over here is about to unload. Can you go to the next text, please?
I might be with Tony on
Now,
this.
wait, you do a better job of reserving. He can't. There's another one coming. He can't help himself. Right now, there's another one sitting there that he badly wants to get out. Do you want me to just take the next text? Do I need to get involved? Because I know what you're doing, right? Am I right? It's right on the tip of your tongue. You got another one loaded. It's ready to come out. It's going to be a problem. True?
Yes.
No. Jersey Jeff has a text. Can we get to it?
Oh.
That was my foul, up 3. I'm committing the foul right now, up 3.
Up 3.
Not letting him get a 3-pointer off. Going to make him go to the line and earn it here.
There you go. Good call.
Go ahead. Jersey Jeff here. Read it.
Hey, folks. Has your favorite basketball team been outcalled in fouls 35-2 in Inside Allen Fieldhouse? Episode800.com has a solution for you. It's episode800.com. 3 Guys, Ask Chap Cream. It's a guaranteed way to solve and fix all your problems.
What episode is this?
Last.
What number? Because I was going to say 800, not even close now. We're not getting to 544.
Jersey Jeff writes, I hope you guys are well. I'd like to comment on a recent discussion of sports watching on the television. Tony and Hoppy totally out of line and borderline hypocritical for attacking Brad and the way he watches sports.
Thank you.
For a long time, I've been a proponent of 2-screen minimum when watching sports. Today's day and age, it's easy to get 2 games on at the same time, assuming there's multiple TVs in one's possession. TVs are not hard to come by either. Multiple screens easily outdo the quad box, which was encouraged in the same discussion.
Thank you.
I will not tolerate multiple screen sports viewing slander. I'm with Brad.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you.
Hey, guys, this is Steven from the Waterfront Marriott. Watching our women's team played left me wondering why you don't see a lot of on-ball screens, pick and rolls in women's college basketball. Maybe I'm ignorant since I haven't watched a ton, but I'd like to think that J.J. Quinterly and Jordan Harrison would be perfect point guards to be the ball handler in a pick and roll. Mm-hmm. Also, Tony, while I enjoy all of your impressions, including my breakfast mate, Sean McDonough, my absolute favorite is your impression of Coach Greg Hunter. Yeah, runs a 4.40, could be a pretty good player, 4.45. Coaches like him a lot. Please do your Coach Hunter impression more often.
Did you see what Beanie ran?
3.9?
No, not a 3.9. It was a 4.2, wasn't it, or 4.3?
What did he run? What did Beanie run?
Nobody runs a 3.9.
No, I saw that. What did Beanie run?
Beanie ran a 4.3?
Yeah,
Something.
Wait,
Where is
wait,
that?
wait,
I'll check. Go ahead.
By the way, you do a lot of great impressions. Hunter is actually your worst. Like, not even close.
It's not an impression. It's a characterization.
It's a caricature.
Joan always says that too.
By
Like,
the
why
way,
do you
real
do
quick
that?
on-
He doesn't sound like that.
Real quick on pick and roll, I don't have my database with the pick and roll stuff in there, but West Virginia does do that with JJ and Jordan. They do like to run the pick and roll.
What did I say? Beanie ran a 3.9.
You said 3 He ran consistent All-American beating Bishop.
4.39.
4.39.
4.39. I just forgot to put the 4 in front of the 3.9. I knew it was a 3.9.
If he ran a 3.9, he'd go to the Olympics. 4.39 is pretty good.
That's 4.39 is really good.
It was the fastest among any of the folks at the Big 12
Good
workout.
job, Beanie. Keep killing it.
You know what? He's going to get a shot.
Well, sure he
He'll
will.
get a shot.
Yeah, good Tom. Yeah. Tom and Tim in Fairfield Glade, Tennessee. Before that, I was in Charlestown for 17 years. I laughed out loud during episode 400. It wasn't 400. Your last episode, when you guys talked about the Atlantic 10 basketball tournament when it was held in Morgantown, my wife likes to say, I don't need any more T-shirts. I should get rid of some of them. I smiled when I had a reason to wear this classic again. Look at that, Hoppy. 1988 Atlantic 10 basketball championship in Morgantown. That's Tim Tewalt.
I love that.
Thank you, Tim.
Still
good
looks
to see
good,
you.
too.
Yeah.
And WVU won that, right? I think they did. Like
they did not.
They didn't?
They did not. Not in 88. Not in 88.
Okay, another year they won it? Because I have a mental picture of Mike King sitting on the rim.
No, that's a lot earlier than 88. We got beat early in that, and it came down. Tom Penders was the coach at Rhode Island, and I would bet $1 to a donut that it was Carlton Silk Owens, Tom Garrick for Rhode Island. They won the thing in 88. That would be my guess. Totally off the top of my head.
That's pretty good, though, off the top of your head.
Texter. Tony, thank you for letting me get my picture made. I need to get in front of Hoppy to get the information on him drinking beers in my dad's basement. There's Chris. So, Hoppy, that was yesterday afternoon. We were in the lounge.
Oh,
and
okay.
That guy is Chris.
Okay.
And the guy on the right, that's Ren. And I don't know if you met him. And that guy said that his dad and you used to drink beers somewhere in a basement on campus here. And I said,
really?
If all it was beers, it was a good night. That's what I told him.
Well, I'll just say this. In college, drinking beers in a basement apartment, that covers a lot of territory.
Texter, gentlemen, expecting you to cover most of this regarding the refereeing. However, I was appalled at what I observed of Caitlin Clark. Her behavior is a frequent social media topic. I've seen her gestured toward teammates to blame them for mistakes. Is it true? My question is this. Is the criticism warranted? Are we expecting more of her because she's female? Do men do this? Are we not as critical? I only watch Mountaineer games, so I'm not as familiar with behavior as I know you all are. Thank you.
If you want to go there, Brad and I have a different approach on that. I just think different perspectives, and Brad and I talked about this on my coffee clatch, is that I don't follow it like he does. Brad watched all the Iowa games. I only saw a couple, and I acknowledge how great she is and the contribution she has made, not just to women's basketball, but to basketball, and how she has inspired young girls to get involved in basketball. So I think that's marvelous, and she's an outstanding player. I was put off by her actions in the game against West Virginia, but I understand that was a one-off, Brad.
No, it's not one-off.
I've watched most of Caitlin Clark's basketball games over the last 2 years. Have a young daughter that's a big fan, loves the Mountaineers, and also watches Caitlin Clark when the Mountaineers aren't on. Can't say enough for how she's propelled women's basketball forward. She has been a really good role model. She's also an elite competitor, borderline psychotic about it, a la Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and the like. And sometimes your competitiveness takes over. And there are times when I've been on a field of court that happens, right? I've done that too. We've all done that. If you've competed, that happens. I think that's more what you see come out of her in those instances. An elite competitor, and sometimes she'll clap back at fans, at teammates, what have you. As, again, somebody with a young daughter, I have no problem with her looking up to Caitlin Clark. I think she's been a joy to watch over this time at Iowa.
Texter, last one. Mountaineer Nation seems to be the recipient of a coach who gets us. For me, that's crucial to his success as his stellar coaching credentials. Never once during yesterday's press conference did he refer to anything as me, my, or I. Every time he referred to anything regarding the Mountaineers, he said, "We are us." My hope is that all Mountaineer fans will embrace him with the same inclusivity. And if great success comes quickly as it did to the women's team and Coach Kellogg, that'll be great. But if not, I hope the quick to criticize will give it a rest. Good luck, Coach DeVries, and go Mountaineers. Please, when appropriate, give an update on Coach Eilert's next opportunity. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Happy Easter. MJ in Savannah.
I have an Eilert update briefly. I had Ren Baker on my coffee klatch today, and I asked him if he knew anything, whether Josh had gotten a job yet or not, and he said he wasn't aware, but also that he was going to help in any way he could of anybody on that staff. And maybe, who knows, maybe a staff member or two will be retained by the new coach, you don't know. And also, WVU is paying for the coaches to go to the Final Four, where, as you know, a lot of that stuff takes place.
Sure. Absolute job fair. Absolute job fair. All right. Whew. Very good.
I never got my Garrett Green stats in, but that's okay.
Next
Save
week.
We
got a lot of spring football now.
We got a lot of shows before that ball goes in the air again. You just hold on to that little notepad. Thank you very much for the candy, Hoppy. We certainly do appreciate it.
No, it's from E. Bunny. So
Thank you. Thank you a lot.
A guy by
E-Bunny.
the name of E. Bunny.
Thank
dropped
you,
it
E-Bunny.
off
Wonderful.
on his way by.
Well, I got to go cut the grass. I'm out. Three Guys brought to us by Comax Business Systems, keeping West Virginia's business data safe, secure, efficient for 25 years. By GoMart, go for good times, go for GoMart. If you're out there traveling around this weekend and you need fuel, food, or just fun, go to GoMart. You know, sometimes you guys, I mean, like you're the kids and I'm the substitute teacher. Are you?
Finish your reading. We're not talking to you.
Where you're talking, your
No,
mic's
we're not.
on.
He was talking. I was not. Not your. He.
Read.
Prickly.
Prickly. Three Guys brought to us by Lou Wendell Marine Sales in St. Albans. They sell family fun. Visit LouWendellMarineSales.com. Take your vessel into the water and have a wonderful time. Three Guys, I bet you think those CPAs are working on Easter weekend. I bet you some of them
Oh,
are.
my gosh.
You gotta get that stuff
They're
done.
grinding. Yeah.
Conley CPA Group, they're at work. You need help, they got you. Conley CPA Group, providing value beyond the numbers. For our producer, Austin Wright. For Hoppy. And for El Senator, our special assistant producer in charge of logistics and videography today, Genevieve Howe. Appreciate her support behind the scenes. We're out. Have a good weekend. We'll see you all.